So when I moved to Regina, it was actually a really lonely time for me. I was coming out of Saskatoon where I had family. Originally being from Ontario, I didn't have family waiting for me in Regina. And so the first few months here were actually really difficult, and surprisingly so. I had moved to Regina to do some extra training for pharmacy in the hospital context, and it took up a lot of my time, but I had a lot more time to be in my mind and thinking than I realized that I was going to. And some of the things that came out of that were realizing again just how much I had been striving for perfection in my life and really wanting to attain standards and obey rules that were of my own making. And when I fell short, I would often just feel the guilt and shame of that and not really know how to turn or how to preach the gospel to myself in those hard situations. And so what I found is that in the complexity of life or in my failings, I would often turn to things that were good but not great, things like food or entertainment or exercise and even people to try and just appease the way that I was feeling. What I found when I came to the Compass was such an invitation for openness and vulnerability, and in a way that I had never experienced before in community. And it took me a long time to feel comfortable to open up about my own struggles. What I found when I did was that there was a community of people that also knew what it was like to struggle and to want to obey Christ but not always know what that looks like and to be struggling too. And I also saw just such hope in the lives of the people in my GPS and the friends that I made. And I saw the way that vulnerability, when you share and you're open, it invites vulnerability from other people. And so there were relationships that reached depth in such a quick way and in a way that I hadn't really experienced a lot before in my life. What I also experienced in community was, I guess in a new way, I would hear things at church, for example, Jesus is perfect, so I don't have to be. But moving that from an abstract concept to understanding what it meant for my life and my heart was something that was really difficult for me. And trying to bring the gospel from more of a surface level or head level knowledge to a heart level where I knew it was personal and where I knew that it meant something for me in the hard moments, I had a bit of a disconnect there. And so what I found in my GPS and with my friends and even through the preaching at the Compass was tools on bridging that gap for myself in my day-to-day life, and realizing that when I feel overwhelmed or when I feel like I'm not attaining some type of perfection or meeting the rules that I've set out for myself, I can take a step back and remember truth. So for example, when I feel like I need to strive, I can remember that Jesus is perfect, and what that means is that he went to the cross and he suffered everything on this earth and didn't sin, and he died the death that I should have died and met the perfection that I couldn't attain and don't have to attain, and instead gave me life and grace to live in today. One word picture for the visual learners out there that I kind of keep with me, a few summers ago we were passing in our cruise vehicle. One day we were passing an area that had been replanted several years prior, and when we planted trees they were probably about this tall, and the trees in this area of land were maybe this tall. So I just nonchalantly asked my boss, how old do you think those trees are? And he told me probably about 4 years. And it seemed so dumbfounding that it takes that long for something to grow such a small amount. And as we were talking about it more, he was explaining to me that in the first few years that a tree is developing, the roots are becoming stronger. And that's the foundation that has to be set so that then the trees can grow and sustain just the complexities of life and the storms of life. And I just thought that was such a beautiful picture of life too, and how often we want change to be seen above ground, but it's happening below and the roots are being laid firm. And the fact that it's not just one tree, but it's side by side by side, all standing together. And it's just such a picture like a forest or trees all together bringing glory to God. And that's what we can do in community too when we stand side by side and we help shelter each other from the storms of life and to point one another back to truth. but we also enhance each other's beauty and the way that we can bring honor to God in those things too. So that's often something that I come back to when I feel alone or I'm not sure what's going on, and I remember the truth that I have people around me that care deeply, that walk with me, and that God has given to me as a gift in this season of my life.